Start winning at the races with Daily Racing Form's new mobile pass performances, featuring exclusive buyer speed figures and expert analysis and selections. Go to drf.com/best and get the power of DRF in the palm of your hand. Dan Illman, Mike Buer, race number 7 at Keeneland on Sunday is the co-feature, the Grade 3 Transylvania. It is at 1 mile and a 16th on the turf for 3-year-olds. Let's take a peek at this field. I thought this was a very competitive bunch. The one field pass is extremely logical at 2-1 on the morning line. He's a graded stakes winner on synthetic. He is a stakes winner on turf. He has a versatile running style, but you can make a case for several other horses in the race, including the upwardly mobile Vintage Man, the stakes winner, Irish Mias, and the horse on the outside, another horse with a lot of upside potential, Bama Breeze.
Yeah, I agree with that, Dan. I mean, I have no argument with Field Pass being the favorite on the morning line. He's a perfectly logical horse in here, but this race could go beyond him.
I think there's a chance that this pace could quicken up a little bit more than Timeform US projects. You'll note there's no red bar in there. Timeform US believes that Juggernaut is going to get to a relatively easy early lead, and I'm not going to argue that Juggernaut is fast. He's very quick out of the gate. I just wonder if the 7 Fancy Liquor, a horse that's been on the lead in all 3 lifetime starts, doesn't put a lot of pressure on that horse.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think the pace could get fast in here, but listen, I'm not going to argue with Juggernaut being on the lead in the pace projector. He's a fast horse.
Field Pass, the number 1, is your morning line favorite. He had trouble. He overcame it on the Dania Beach. That was a race where he was in behind horses, angled to the rail, then had to come out in between horses, still got it done. In the Jeff Ruby Stakes, outside post position, wide trip. He just had more stamina than the horse on the lead, Invader. 1 mile and an 1/8 might actually be his best game, Mike, even though he's won at 1 mile. He got a brilliant ride last time out in the Autobahn. He set the pace, he backed down the fractions, and then the jock threw in a quick third quarter to overwhelm everybody, and he just held off Bama Breeze.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's not saying he didn't run well again last time, and he's basically on a pretty good run here so far in 2020, where he just keeps improving from race to race. 2 starts back in the Work Gen, I thought he got a terrible trip, and still actually finished a good third. But last time, I don't think there's any way to deny that he took advantage in there. He broke out at the start and caused a rival to lose his rider, and then he just went right to the front, and he got a very soft trip on the lead there. Dan, he ran well, but he also took advantage.
Another horse that got an easy trip was the 2, Kentucky Ghost, and he got an easy trip against weaker horses. He finally got his maiden win at Indiana Grand after knocking on the door at Tampa Bay Downs over the winter and into the spring. But boy, what a trip last time out. Just able to save ground in behind the leaders under Robbie Alvarado. He got out without any kind of impediment, and then he had to work very hard in the stretch. This is a big ask stepping up against graded stakes competition.
Yeah, agreed. He ran fine last time, but he's found himself in a very, very tough graded stakes race here.
What do you think about Cityman's chances at this distance? I know he's bred to get it. I kind of liked his races sprinting earlier last year against New York Reds. I thought he ran very well in the funny side, very well in defeat in the Bertram Bongard. And then I wonder if the mile was a bit sharp for him in the Sleepy Hollow. That being said, in the Central Park, Mike, he ran okay in his turf debut, and he has the ground excuse because it was a yielding turf course. He was very headstrong early and was wrangled all the way back to last. And then he came with a little bit of a wide run at the end of that race. Christophe Clement ran him on dirt last time out. It's very interesting that a smart trainer like Clement's running him here when he has options coming up at Saratoga for New York breds.
Yeah, all those things are very interesting. And he did run pretty well on turf at the end of last year. So I think he deserves a chance in a race like this. We'll see what happens then. Off the layoff in the Mike Lee, I think he might have run deceptively well there. I mean, it was kind of hard to tell how much horse he had, but he was down inside behind horses. He had no choice but to try to come up the rail, and that really didn't work out that well for him. He's eligible to take a pretty big step forward here.
We talked a little bit about Juggernaut before the Indiana Derby. He was withdrawn from that race to wait for this one, and how Juggernaut's form is dirtied up. good-looking career debut beating Dean Martini, who's now the winner of the Ohio Derby. Then he caught Dennis's Moment, who was red hot at that moment. Then he caught No Parole, who's now the Grade 1 winner of the Woody Stevens. Then he caught Art Collector, who's going to be one of the choices in the Bluegrass on Saturday. His turf debut was good. He went fast early, and he just got run down late. The key to this race, does Fancy Liquor pressure him? Because if he doesn't, Juggernaut has a chance to steal this at a big number.
No, I agree with all that stuff. To me, he just looks like a really dangerous horse in here. This is not an easy spot, Dan. He is going to have to run his very best race, but his effort on turf last time was not bad at all. And I do think he could get loose in here.
Vintage Print, the number 5, sold for $1.8 million. He's by Curlin out of Molly Morgan, who won the Grade 1 La Troyenne. And after his first 2 dirt starts, Chad must have been a little bit frustrated. But Vintage Print has found a home on the turf. He's won his last 2 races. He had to work very hard in his most recent race at Churchill. That non-winner is a one other than allowance. He came to the outside in the stretch. He had to grind it down. He hopped back to his left lead late. That being said, there's a lot of scope for improvement here.
I think there is. Obviously, he's a much better horse on turf than he was on dirt. I mean, he looks much more comfortable on this surface. I like both of his wins since they switched him over. And what I like more than anything else, Dan, is he finishes in his races. He's a very determined horse on the grass at the end of these races. I'm not going to be surprised if he takes another step forward in this race.
Irish Myas is a very dependable horse. He won his maiden in the Laurel Futurity on turf, and Graham Motion is one of the more dependable layoff trainers in the entire country. This horse returns as a new gelding. I thought he ran fine in some of his races last year. Look who he split in the pulpit 2 starts back. Sole Volante, the Sam F. Davis winner, King Guillermo, the Tampa Bay Derby winner, and last time out in the Kitten's Joy, he saved ground. He came to the outside in the stretch, and he ran okay. I didn't think there was a big pace on for him in that race, and that's what he might need, and that's what he might get here.
Yeah, true enough. I thought he might need a good pace too, and he might get it here. That's certainly what he got in the pulpit 2 back when he finished second. They went a good pace in front of him that day. I thought he ran well. He earned a figure in that race that suggests he could take a pretty big step forward here. He's a new gelding. There's plenty to like about this horse for Motion.
Fancy Liquor, the number 7, I really liked his debut at Gulfstream. He battled a couple of other horses while down on the inside and on the lead. He bumped with the runner-up in the stretch, and undaunted, he won that photo finish. Last time out was the race against Vintage Print, and he set the pace. He was setting a nice, easy lead, and then he saw a shadow on the backstretch. He jumped it. He lost momentum, and immediately when he regained momentum, the third-place finisher came at him with a run on the outside. He put that horse away. He just couldn't finish off Vintage Print. All in all, it was a good race.
It really was. I mean, certainly when you go back and watch that race, I don't think anybody who saw it would be surprised if he was able to hold off Vintage Print this time. The question is, going to get the trip that he really wants, because it seems like, at least at this point, he wants to be on the lead.
I think the 8th Street Ready is a little bit dirty, a tiny bit dirty. In the Cutler Bay, I just don't think he had a trip at all. First, he was in against Decorated Invader, who's probably the best 3-year-old turf male in the country. B, he made this big early move 4 wide into the teeth of the pace, and he understandably tired. He won 2 starts back despite being very, very wide again all the way around the track. I just didn't love his war chant. I was disappointed that he didn't fire. And I know it was raining that day. Maybe the course was a little bit wet, but he came out with a chance in the stretch, and he was one pace late.
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of look at him the same way, Dan. I do feel like, though, if he's a horse that you liked going into the war chant, you probably want to stick with him in here, because he's going to be a price. And you're absolutely right about his races 2 and 3 back. He did not have great trips either time, and he managed to overcome it in that allowance race.
Spanish Kingdom is the number 9. He has won his last 2 starts on the turf for trainer Joe Sharp. He is a little bit slow coming in, and he's taking on stakes horses for the first time. He didn't break very well last time out, but I liked how they got him right into the race early, tracking 3 wide with a good trip, and he was on his way once in the clear in the lane. He sure didn't look like a 26-1 shot that day.
Yeah, that was a pretty sharp win, going a mile and an eighth as well. So, it's certainly something to think about with him. He does have to improve to win here, but maybe he can do it.
The 10 Caninos is a little bit interesting. In his career debut on turf, he took on Tiesto, who you like, in the bluegrass a little bit later on Saturday. He then rolled through his next two races on the grass, and he was the unlucky horse that clipped heels with Field Pass leaving the gate and dumped Bridge Mahan to the turf last time out. Going back to that race at the fairgrounds 2 starts back, I think he did some good things. He broke real slow. He was last. He must have come 6 wide into the stretch, and he rolled them all down late.
Yeah, I mean, I really like his 2 turf wins. They're not fast, but they're, obviously very early in his career. And I think he ran well in both of those races. He's going to be a price in this race. He has a ton of upside. You take Brad Cox horses lightly at your own peril. There are things to like about this horse. I'm going to use him somewhere.
Bama Breeze is a horse, though, if you watch his career debut at Churchill Downs, you're not going to focus on the 67 Beyer speed figure. You're going to focus on how he overcame trouble and how he really fired in the stretch. That was an excellent performance. And Rusty Arnold showed a lot of confidence. Off a long layoff, he didn't run him in an hours or one other than. He ran him right into the war chant. And that trip didn't exactly work out for him that day as well. Last time out on the Audubon going a mile and an eighth, Mike, he got the patented Corey Lannery ride. He saved ground every step of the way. He cut the corner sharply in the stretch, and he was gaining on Field Pass, who just had a tactical advantage over him. Now, he may not get that trip here, breaking from a really lousy post position, but I think this horse has some talent, and it's untapped.
I agree with all that stuff. His career debut was really good. And the war chant off the layoff, he basically had a no chance trip in there. And it wasn't Lannery's fault, but he did bury this horse on the rail. He had no choice but to stay down there. And he just never got, he was in a ton of traffic in that race. And he ran really well last time. I mean, within the context of that race, the way it was run, the trip that Field Pass got, this horse did really well to be gaining ground at the end of that race.
Top pick time for the co-feature at Keeneland on Sunday. This is an interesting race. I just love Field Pass's versatility. I think that he's going to be a short price, and maybe he's not worth the short price he's going to be, but I just think another good trip is coming. He's adaptable. He's probably going to sit the pocket this time around or a little bit further behind. He doesn't have the speed to go with the speed horses, but I just expect a good, solid performance out of him. I expect your horse to run really big, and he might be a better price. I have to use him in multis as well. I went 111.5. You went 11.5-1.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how they bet it, I guess. Really the only knock that I had on Field Pass was that he was a very short price on the morning line in a tough spot, but I'm not way against that horse at all. I've liked Bama Breeze from the start. He has a tough post here, but I'll stick with him.
Grade 3 Transylvania, one of 2 graded events at Keeneland on Sunday. Best of luck.